Okay, here we have Entrust, and this is a 16 three-hand 6-year-old thoroughbred gelding by Micromanage. And Entrust came off the track in August of 2025, and he went to an amateur in New York who did a great job getting him restarted in the fall. However, he's with me now because she does not have access to an indoor, and so he's sort of been sitting for the last month or so, probably about 2 months, since winter has been really quite terrible this year in the Northeast. So anyway, he's having his second ride with me here. The day before, I did a quick ride with him actually in the field because when I rode him in the morning, my ring was not thawed out enough yet. So we did a ride in the field, which was just sort of funny. I've never done a first ride on a horse I didn't know in that little section of sort of bumpy field behind my chicken coop. But anyway, he was a trooper for it. He was very good. It was just a walk trot ride though, because the permafrosty ground, cantering did not feel like it was a wise idea. So anyway, this is the next day and the ring is looking a lot better. So here we are in the ring. And so of course we did some canter work today and the canter does not disappoint. He is absolutely lovely in all of his gaits. He has a beautiful self-carriage. He's very soft in his mouth. He has a lovely way of going and way of carrying himself. So little things to know about Entrust. He is very light in his mouth. I've got him in the Hermspringer Duo. That feels like the right bit for him right now. He's a little bit still learning things like yielding to leg pressure. So you can't really tell from the angle of the camera standing in the middle of the ring, but we're actually doing a little bit of an early turn around each quarter, kind of onto the quarter line, maybe not quite that far, but we're turning before the track on each quarter line, and then we're doing a little leg yield over towards the track. And so we're doing that both directions, to the left and the right, and that's really helping him to sort of start to understand lateral work, to get some better true flexion around whichever respective inside leg it is, and just to sort of get him to start to loosen up and step a little bit more through. To the left, that's easier for him than to the right. The left is his little bit stronger direction right now, which is the most common situation for horses who are recently off the track and haven't had that many miles yet post-track. But he also did it to the right, and he did a lovely job. You'll see it to the right. He has a couple of moments where he just sort of has a little blip. You know, he doesn't step off when I ask him to move off my inside leg. So, of course, then I have to ask a little more loudly, and then he'll have a little moment where he comes up above the bit or whatever it is. We have a quick little discussion, but he really figured it out nicely, and the horse was wonderful. I mean, I'm picking at him here. I think he's delightful. I have a fabulous time riding him. And when they go like this, you know, so easily, it's very obvious that he's going to come along quickly and quite easily. So again, here to the right, you can't really tell from the angle Billy's standing at, but I'm just turning early out of each corner and then asking him to just step off my inside leg and take some steps over towards the track. And it's especially good for him to the right because he does find the left bend easier right now. So this is helping him to sort of understand, you know, flexing his rib cage around my inside leg and getting some right bend. And I really like his frame right there. You have to be careful with these horses that are so soft and round. This is a great problem to have, but you know, sometimes when they're so soft, they have a tendency to come a little bit behind the vertical. So there are a couple of moments here when he comes a little behind the vertical. Not here, actually. That's quite good. He's right on vertical. That's obviously not what I'm looking for, but it kind of just comes with the territory with these green horses. And especially when they're not fit and they're not strong, it's actually less work for them to duck behind the vertical than it is to stay on vertical. So when he has those moments, you know, obviously that's not what I'm looking for, but it's going to happen with these guys. I have to say, though, it's not terrible. It's just a little moment here and there. It's not like he's chronically behind the vertical. Again, here, this is really nice. And then he comes a little bit above here. We have a quick little discussion. And then very good boy. And this is quite nice. I like his tempo. I like his swing. I like his connection. He's relaxed, he's thinking, he's happily working. So the canter is lovely. I could ride this all day, every day. It actually reminds me quite a bit of my personal horse Sunshine's canter, just so super duper uphill and balanced. So in the canter, I picked up a stick when we started doing some canter work because in the canter transitions, he just wanted to get a little bit stuck behind the leg, and I'm sure that that is from not having worked for the last however long. And he's certainly not a hot horse. You know, this is not a horse that you're telling to whoa. If anything, you're putting your leg on quite a bit. So if he's going to choose between being a little bit too slow or being a little bit too hot, he's definitely the type that if anything needs some nudging to go onward. So the first couple times I asked him to canter, he just kind of wanted to get stuck. He just sort of actually slowed down instead of stepping into the canter. So I picked up the stick just to help me give him a little bit of encouragement to step forward into the canter when asked. And we did that for quite a bit. And he got it. And obviously then once we established how to step into the canter, he obviously does some beautiful work in the canter. And I was probably being a little bit greedy in this ride. He's not fit. He worked lightly the day before. And then today I really did ask quite a bit from him. So I'm sure at some point in all of this canter work, he's starting to get a little bit fatigued. He's definitely going to have today off, and then the weekend looks quite miserable. So he's probably going to have a couple of days off now. So you'll see what I mean here about getting a little bit stuck in the canter transition. So there, I'm asking him to canter, and he does step into the canter, but after 3 or 4 steps of sort of wanting to get a little bit sucked behind the leg. So this is nothing crazy. It's not some major problem, but it is just something to be aware of and for him to continue to work on. But he is a very quick learner, and the things that I worked on him the day before in the field, I did not have to readdress at all today. So I suspect that in another ride or two, those canter transitions will be smoothed right out. So we didn't do quite as much cantering to the right as to the left because, as I said, I think he was getting a little fatigued by this point. And also, when we were doing our canter work to the right and it really got nice and he settled into it, he slipped on a piece of ice and he fell out of the canter when he slipped on the ice, which was totally fine, of course. And then I just sort of thought, okay, that's enough. Like, the horse has been fabulous. He put in some really good work. I wish we had gotten a little bit of longer canter work to the right, but him slipping on that ice was just kind of like a little wake-up call for me to just not be so greedy. He did plenty of work today, and let him be done with that. And to the right, well, a sign of probably being a little tired at this point, but also not quite as strong to the right. He was wanting to fall out of the canter a little bit. He'd give me a couple of amazing steps in the right canter, and then obviously that's really hard work, so then he wants to fall out of it. So we had to do a little bit of work correcting the whole, well, you have to keep cantering until I ask you to not canter. But at least when he does step out of the canter, that's a good opportunity for him to practice doing his upward canter transitions again. And actually that one we just did was much better. And then there, he wanted to step out of the canter, but I was quicker and I managed to keep him in it. So again, this is just not a hot horse. This is a very athletic, talented, uphill horse that you really get to put your leg on and send forward. For him, the answer is really just sending forward for pretty much everything. So here, this is when I thought he gave me his best canter work to the right. I like his bend here. I like his frame. He's relaxed. Yep. And then we slipped. So then that was time to be done. That was more than enough for the day. He was fantastic. And so here he is on cross ties. He's very good on the ground. He stands really nicely. Really super horse.